we are Global Strangeness, Scott, Jeremy, myself, Deborah, and we are three strangers who came together with our love of all the things that are creepy, unexplainable, and just downright interesting. So this week, we want to take a moment and say thank you to all our listeners. First of all, you guys are amazing, and we are, having such a good time, and it's good that you guys are enjoying this as well. Especially the people at BitChute, you guys are really sticking with us, and we really, appreciate that. So hang in there. Tonight, we're getting into conspiracies, and so I wasn't sure what my opinion was on this actually. So, and I found a video that was really interesting. We're talking about the moon landing. Is it a yay or is it an A? So I think we have a few different opinions on here, so it should be a good little debate at the end. So I don't know, Scott, so for my research, I found a video that I really liked how they presented it. And I was like, yep, that makes sense to me. So I don't know, should we just jump right in there, or do we want to say our opinions first off, or what are we doing? Roundtabling it?
Well, I mean, I obviously believe it's a hoax. Jeremy, do you believe it's real?
I am conflicted actually on it. I always have been, and I mean, I'll get into why later, but like, I have reasons I think it could have been fake, but also the same kind of reasons it could have been real. So I don't know.
Well, I have $28.2 billion a year of why it's probably fake. So does NASA. What do you think, Deborah, before we watch the movie?
Well, I found something that I want to be true just because I think it's so fun. So I think, I think that we have been there and been uninvited. So
well, let me get the screen sharing here. Share Zoom meeting. And we are sharing.
Maybe we'll change some minds here after watching this.
With sound. So we are reacting to this video. We're not stealing anything.
Yeah, no, we can kind of do a commentary on it as we go. But I thought it was well put together.
Where the hell is the volume? Oh, Jimmy.
My wife, my children, and my grandchildren would all be killed. That they would take us out somehow, some terrible accident. And he says, I'm not going to talk about it.
Here is an extract from the original press release. NASA scientists and engineers participating in exploration of Mars and the Moon reported the results of their discoveries at a briefing at the Washington National Press Club on March 21st, 1996. It was announced for the first time that man-made structures and objects have been discovered on the Moon. The scientists spoke rather cautiously and evasively about these objects, with the exception of a UFO. They always mentioned that man-made objects are possible and stated the information was still under study and official results would be published later. It was mentioned at the briefing that the Soviet Union used to own some photo materials proving the presence of such activity on the Moon. And although it wasn't identified what kind of activity it was, thousands of...
So hold on, this was Apollo 4?
Yeah. If it, like, when it first starts, starts out.
It says all the Apollos.
All the Apollo missions.
And the Clementine, where that was.
Yeah.
Okay, because they weren't manned until 11. Okay, so we are
photo and video materials from the Apollos and the Clementine space station showed many parts on the lunar surface where this activity and its traces were perfectly evident. The video films and photos made by US astronauts during the Apollo program were demonstrated at the briefing. People were extremely surprised why the materials hadn't been presented to the public earlier. NASA specialists answered, it was difficult to forecast the reaction of people to information that some creatures had been or still are on the Moon. In addition, there were some other reasons to it, which were beyond the control of NASA. Specialist for lunar studies Richard Hoagland says that NASA is still trying to alter photo materials before being published in public catalogs and files. They do some retouching, or are partially refocusing them while copying. Some investigators, Hoagland is among them, suppose that an extraterrestrial race had used the moon as a terminal station during their activity on the Earth. These suggestions are confirmed by the legends and myths of different nations of our planet. The ruins of lunar cities.
So that's kind of interesting. How many of you guys have heard that the moon's hollow and it was a made structure?
I mean, I've heard of the hollow part, but it's always never been proven.
Mhm.
Besides, like the missile hitting it, it vibrating for however long. But other than that, I mean, could the moon be like a Death Star? I don't know. It's possible, I guess. It's like a base that they abandoned and left there. But why would it control Earth's tides then?
I don't know. What do you think, Deborah?
Well, I don't know any more than you guys, but I like this idea that this is why nobody's really racing back to it. If we have gone to it, why has it taken so long? Like, why aren't, like you said, if, everybody's, going for Mars, like, why haven't we been to the moon way more times since the first landing?
Or out of lower Earth orbit? Just saying. Okay.
Stretch for many kilometers. Huge domes on massive basements, numerous tunnels, and other constructions cause scientists to reconsider their opinions concerning the moon. How the moon appeared and the principles of its revolving around the Earth still pose a significant problem for scientists. Some partially destroyed objects on the lunar surface can't be placed among natural geological formations, as they are of complex organization and geometrical structure. In the upper part of Rima Hadley, not far from where the Apollo 15 had landed, a construction surrounded by a tall, D-shaped wall was discovered. As of now, different artifacts have been found in 44 regions. The NASA Goddard Space Flight Center and the Houston Planetary Institute are investigating the regions. Mysterious, terrace-shaped excavations of rock have been discovered near the Tycho crater. The concentric, hexahedral excavations and the tunnel entry on the terrace side can't result from natural geological processes. Instead, they look like open-cast mines. A transparent dome raised above the crater edge was discovered near the crater Copernicus. The dome is unusual, as it is glowing white and blue from the inside. A rather unusual object, which is unusual indeed even for the moon, was discovered in the upper part of the factory area. A disk of about 50 meters in diameter stands on a square basement, surrounded by walls. In the picture, close to the rhomb, we can also see a dark, round embrasure in the ground, resembling an underground Caponier entry.
And so we reached out to him and invited him to come to those events, and he politely declined and told us that it was made very clear to him and the other Apollo astronauts who witnessed this first event, where when we landed at the crater on the moon, the rim at the top of the crater was, quote, crowded with UFOs, craft that were up there, multiple of them, and that these were filmed. I know people personally who've seen that film.
There is a rectangular area between the factory and the crater Copernicus, 300 meters wide, 400 meters long. Apollo 10 astronauts took a photo of a 1 mile long object called Castle, which is at the...
Okay, I gotta critique this a little bit. They teach you guys the metric system, right? In Canada?
Oh, okay. I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
Why the hell are we still learning? Like, he went from meters to miles. Like, what the fuck, man? Why can't we just go back to meters that everyone else in the world uses?
That's another show. I don't know. The education systems.
Have you guys noticed how the moon is always like, it's the same side facing us? Like, that's how you can see the man on the moon, because it's always the same side facing us?
Is it?
Well,
I don't
yeah.
know.
I mean, well, the Earth rotates, not the moon.
Well, no, the moon rotates too, because that's how it blocks the sun. So we're like spinning
True,
and
true,
spinning.
but we, I
Yeah,
mean, we
but
spin
it's
and
not
rotate. so it
rotating. It's
kinda-
like it's orbiting, not like going around, but it's not. It doesn't actually rotate as it does that, right? We rotate.
Yeah,
Yeah,
seems a little weird.
we rotate. It's the only thing, we orbit too, but only the moon only orbits. That's why I meant.
Okay.
Height of 14 kilometers and casts a distinct shadow
go again with
on the
kilometers.
lunar surface. The object seems to consist of several cylindrical units and a large conjunctive unit. The internal porous structure of the castle is clearly seen in one of the pictures, which gives the impression that some parts of the object are transparent. As it turned out at the briefing where many NASA scientists were present, when Richard Hoagland had requested originals of the castle pictures for the second time, no pictures were found at all. They disappeared, even from the list of pictures made by the Apollo 10 crew. Only intermediate images of the object were found in the archives, which unfortunately don't depict the object's internal structure.
So we did go to the moon, but some of the footage, it doesn't make sense because the flag is moving. Now the reason for that, and this is where people say we didn't go to the moon, it was all hoax and filmed in a basement up in New York. The truth is we went, but during the lunar orbiter, going back before the Apollo mission, we actually were circling the Earth taking the first early digital photographs. And as you know from the testimony of Disclosure Project witness Carl Wolf, there were structures on the moon that were artificial. Some were newer and some were very ancient. And so they knew the covert programs, and these images were being downloaded to out here at Langley, not the CIA headquarters, Langley Air Force Base, to a compartmented operation run by the National Security Agency that was then sequestered away from the other NASA scientists. But the people running that project, the deep black people in those projects, knew that it was likely we were going to encounter something not of this world or a UFO when we landed. Therefore, they had filmed some footage that they could splice in if something started happening. So during the live transmission, if something started happening, there's a delay that went through this National Security Agency filter, and they could immediately, instantly put in. And that's why there's a couple frames where the American flag is moving. Well, there's no atmosphere on the moon, okay? Which was the one mistake they made in that whole plan. That's the telltale giveaway.
When the Apollo 12 crew landed on the lunar surface, they saw that the landing was observed by a half-transparent pyramidal object. It was hovering just several meters above the lunar surface and shimmered with all the rainbow colors against the black sky. In 1969, when the film about astronauts traveling to the Sea of Storms was demonstrated, the astronauts saw the strange objects once again, which were later called striped glasses. NASA finally understood what consequences such kind of control could bring. Astronaut Mitchell answered the question about his feelings after his successful return. "My neck still aches as I had to constantly turn my head around because we felt we were not alone there. We had no choice but to pray." Johnston, who worked
He's
at the
so
Houston
dramatic.
Space Center and studied photos and
Huh?
I said he's so dramatic, his voice.
That
We have no choice but to pray.
Yeah.
that one crater looked pretty weird. Did you guys see the one with the like shelf, half shelf over it?
What do you guys think? Is this like, viable?
Yeah, it might be possible. It's
Yeah,
not,
it could be.
Not with the one that Kubrick made, but could be unmanned video photography coming back.
Yeah, it
video
could be.
materials
Keep going.
No, I was just gonna say, like, I don't know, like, this all kind of lends into my theories a little bit, but it actually lends into both my theories, so I don't know. It's so conflicting.
I thought this would have been right up Jeremy's alley.
It is in a way, but it's also kind of pointing in another direction too, but I'll get into that later.
Okay.
made during the Apollo program discussed the artifacts with Richard Hoagland and said that the NASA leadership was awfully annoyed with the significant number of bizarre, to put it mildly, objects on the moon.
And so when they stepped out, of course, and we're approaching actually, before they even landed, they saw them. So they were already with this sort of pre-prepared film that looked very, very good, except for this one error. And so Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin know for a fact. Now, Neil Armstrong said, look, you know, if I were to go forward and talk about what actually happened, I've been told, Neil Armstrong said this to us, that my wife, my children, and my grandchildren would all be killed.
Jeremy, I know you're the big alien guy, right? When you hear about Apollo 11, we only hear about Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin. Nobody ever talks about Michael Collins. But Michael Collins was the one that came out years later talking about aliens on the fucking moon. So, I mean, that kind of shit is a little, you know, sus, right?
I mean, so what's your question here?
Well, it's just like whenever you think of the Apollo 11 moon mission, everyone always talks about Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin. Nobody ever talks about Michael Collins.
I mean, I can't say I even knew his name. I only know Buzz and Neil because that's what I was taught. That's what I was brought up learning at school. But
that's exactly what I'm saying. But he was on the same mission with them. Why do we not know about the crazy guy talking about aliens?
Because
maybe there is a little truth to this.
The government doesn't like crazy guys who talk about things that are true.
Okay, I just thought that was interesting.
That they would take us out somehow, some terrible accident. And he says, I'm not going to talk about it. Now, Buzz Aldrin has just basically, he sort of had a nervous breakdown after this and was actually at an Air Force facility. I know a man that was there with him, and he confided that this is also what happened. I also know Buzz Aldrin's sister, who pulled me aside and says, yes, you're absolutely right. That is what happened, but it's not my job to out Buzz Aldrin on this. If he's ready and he's able and allowed, he will speak about it. But you have to understand, enormous pressure was put on these men never to speak about what actually happened.
It was even said that piloted flights to the moon might be banned. Investigators are especially interested in ancient structures resembling partially destroyed cities. Photos reveal an astonishingly regular geometry of square and rectangular constructions. They resemble our cities seen from the height of 5 to 8 kilometers. A mission control specialist commented on the pictures. Our guys observed ruins of the lunar cities, transparent pyramids, domes, and God knows what else, which are currently hidden deep inside the NASA safes, and felt like Robinson Crusoe when he suddenly came across prints of bare feet on the sand of the desert island. What do geologists and scientists say after studying the pictures of lunar cities and other anomalous objects? They say that such objects can't be natural formations. We should admit, they are artificial, especially the domes and pyramids. Reasonable activity of an alien civilization showed up unexpectedly close to us. We were not ready for it psychologically, and some people hardly believe they are true even now.
Now, one of the things that Neil Armstrong was overheard saying, and this was reported in Timothy Good's book, Above Top Secret, is that Neil Armstrong stated that we were essentially warned off the moon. That, in other words, these civilizations did not want us going to other moons or planets to colonize them with the consciousness of nationalism and the Cold War. Because remember, the Apollo project was really a proxy for the Cold War. The United States was in a complete panic when Sputnik overtook our space program, the Soviets. And so the race to the moon was part of, and always was part of, the military competition between two huge superpowers, the old Soviet Union and the United States of America. And so when we went there, but we went there not as a peaceful world civilization, but as a competing Cold War effort that were armed with thousands of thermonuclear weapons, hydrogen bombs, pointed at each other. That was not the consciousness that the ETs want to see us going into space with. They want us going into space with the consciousness of peace and cooperation, not militarism and war. So that's sort of your, let's say if there's an entry ticket to space exploration, that's the main one. And we haven't quite reached that point, have we?
Space Force. Sounds like, sounds
What
like,
the
sounds
hell?
like sounds like a commercial for Space Force.
It makes sense to me. We're going in as humans, fighting and competing, and they don't want us. Said get back. Stay on your own
Yeah,
planet.
I mean, if we did actually make it, I would think that was the outcome, personally.
Uh, I mean, I've been saying for a long time, if you look at the look on all the astronauts' faces when they came back in that first press conference, they all look like they were scared shitless of something. Whether that something is the government or whether that something is an extraterrestrial race, I don't know. That's the iffy part. But they were scared of something, and they tried to play it off as jet lag and whatnot, but well, space lag, I guess. But still, like, I don't know. Let me put my tinfoil hat on.
Well, I mean, that's the same argument I made with Michael Collins, right? There were 3 people on that first moon mission. We only
And
talked
one's
about 2 of them.
dismissed. Yeah.
And one of them is named Buzz. Give me a break. Why don't we send another person named Buzz to the moon? This is
I love how he's like, the sister's like, it's not up to me to out him, but obviously she's speaking about it and outing him. So
It's not my place to say, but I'm saying it anyway. So yeah, here you
right.
go.
Yeah.
people back then had a lot of like American pride, and they didn't realize what was happening, right? Like this was before the Gulf of Tonkin was announced, before we found out about MK Ultra, before we found out all these ways that the government was screwing us. So it was like, you were proud to be an American.
And you really had faith that good people ran the country, good people,
Yeah.
like you could trust.
And now we have a dead man as a president. So what can you say?
Back in the days when they told you, if anything ever happens, run to your neighbor's house. Your neighbor will help you.
Yeah.
No, your neighbor could be a pedophile or a bank robber, or take your pick. It could be anything they want to be. So you don't trust people unless you know them. Like that's the America we're talking about, like 50s America.
Yeah, it was a different world for sure.
So yeah, I liked how they put that together. If we did go, it makes sense to me. That's the one thing that makes sense to me about why we haven't gone back and why, it's not a real main focus, because it doesn't make sense. If we did land once, they would be, there should be, air shuttles there by now, right? It should be so common. So
we'll be back in 2025, even though it was 2024, and we just keep moving that
pushing
date
it back. Yeah,
so.
moving them. Yeah.
I mean, even the Artemis launch, that was supposed to be in August, and then they had to push it back to, some of it was for the hurricane, but before the hurricanes, there was no reason. They had fuel leaks.
We need Trump back, and then he'll make sure we get there.
Yeah.
I don't know. You guys, the aliens don't want us. We fight too much. We don't work cohesively. They want peace.
So one thing I did not write down in my notes that I wanted to get out of the way is they've carbon dated those moon rocks. But if you know anything about carbon dating, you need some sort of like
Carbon?
Yeah, something with carbon other than rocks to carbon date something. So how the hell,
exactly.
Unless there was like a tree or a piece of wood or something somebody put next to one of these moon rocks 1 billion years ago, their carbon dating shit is out of the fucking question.
Yeah.
Good point.
How you gonna? The moon has no atmosphere. There's nothing to keep carbon in the atmosphere even there. Like it's space. It's just pure space air.
Well, even with the pyramids, like when they try to carbon date stuff, like they'll be able to carbon date something if they find like a wooden spoon or a wagon wheel or something, then they can carbon date that against the rock, but you can't carbon date rock against a rock. Like, so just
that's interesting. Yeah.
I wanted to remember that before I forgot it in my little speech here.
What do you think about them having little snips of film to like splice in really quickly for the live feed in case there was stuff they didn't want people to see? That makes sense to me too, right?
Well, that was one of the biggest things that, because I started my research the day of the Artemis 1 launch. And I don't know if you guys have been following the Artemis 1 launch. I've been watching NASA's footage continuously. In fact, let me bring up one of these.
No, I haven't watched any of it. I mean, I don't have time to keep up with this stuff anymore.
Let's share screen. We don't need sound anymore. So we've got the Artemis 1. Where we got Artemis 1? Okay, NASA live stream of Artemis 1. This is what you get. A computer animated drawing, right? So in 1950s, we were sending digital images back to 3 channels on what, like fucking, what were they even using in the 1950s?
Antenna, satellite.
Yeah, no, it wasn't even satellite. It was antenna.
Oh, yeah,
So they
it was
would
antenna,
stream
yeah.
satellite to a TV station and we'd watch all this moon shit. I've been watching this for 3 days. There is no live stream footage of the moon launch. And if you watch the Artemis launch, they show it right before it gets up into the atmosphere. They cut off. There's nothing else. 50 years later. Not buying it.
Oh,
Not buying it.
yeah, I mean, it does sound suspicious, I will say that, but
Sounds very suspicious.
I mean, I don't know. Part of me thinks that we're in cahoots and we do actually go up there just to meet up with the overlords of the aliens that made a deal with us back in the 50s when we went to the moon for the first time.
I mean,
Oh, that's interesting.
maybe we did. Maybe we did. We strapped ourselves to a ballistic missile and shot our way up to the moon. Could have happened. But
I mean, the government knows about UFOs and they know about aliens. You think there's been aliens on Earth that the government has met? I mean, look at the Valiant Thor incident back when Eisenhower was president. But I think it was Eisenhower, at least. I always fuck that up. But I mean, the aliens, they know all this stuff. So they probably still are going up there. I mean, there's an International Space Station up there still. You don't think
Still-
aliens stop by that?
lower Earth's atmosphere. We have never had a manned mission since 1972 that left the lower Earth's atmosphere in any country in the world. So
Or I mean, I also believe that we could have been threatened back then. That if we leave the atmosphere ever, we will be shot and our planet will be immediately attacked afterwards or quarantined afterwards.
or maybe the aliens just came and said, "Hey, you dumb monkeys, you're not going to be able to survive. Not getting
Yeah,
past the Van Allen radiation belts."
Either that, or I mean, they just said like, we are representatives of a galactic council of extraterrestrial species, and we do not want you idiot humans coming into space just yet. You guys need to figure out your own crap first. Get back to your planet.
See, that's what I think. That makes sense to me.
The old, yeah, I call that the dupe theory. The Democratic Order of Planets from Futurama.
What I thought was really interesting is they're sending mannequins up into space right now with thousands of radiation sensors on them to make sure that women can go to space. And the funny thing is we went up in a tin can right through that radiation belt, and Neil Armstrong lived till he was 82. Michael Collins died last year at the age of 91, and Buzz Aldrin is still alive at 92. But we're worried that that radiation is going to fuck women up more than a couple farmers. So, like, I don't. The whole thing is fishy, man. I don't buy into a minute of it. Not
I
a
mean,
minute of it.
So
But
what
the
was the
episode-
purpose if the whole thing's a lie? What's the purpose of them doing this?
Well, you know, one of the first things is they try to disprove the hoax, right? They'll say that, you know, well, why wouldn't Russia have ratted us out? And the majority of Russians don't believe we have ever made it to space. They don't teach that we went to space. So that one's first off. But hold on, let me get the conspiracies that we found out. Where's my Watergate thing here? Watergate. So that the second thing they'll try to say is the fact that nobody would be able to keep a secret like that. Where's my Watergate?
Yeah, right. Area 51, like all the other secrets that Americans keep that we don't know about supposedly. But
Oop, that's the wrong one. Okay, man, I didn't write that shit down. But the Watergate scandal had, I know I wrote that down somewhere. You know, between the Gulf of Tonkin, Watergate, there were like 70 people indicted and 42 of them found guilty. That was one that we found. And list the fucking, where is my Watergate footage? God damn it. Yeah, no, but I'll have to come back with the conspiracies that America's been caught for. So I will just go into, we can go into the camera first. Let me see what I got lined up here first. So let's talk about what we had accomplished in 1972. That was the year Pong was released. It was also the first ever video game console released by Magnavox. Jack Cover got a patent for the Taser electric shock weapon. Hewlett-Packard released the handheld scientific calculator. Peter Powell invented the first, this is my favorite, first steerable dual string kite. And we had our last outside of the lower Earth atmosphere mission. So, I mean, I'm all screwed up here.
well, while you're looking for that, I will say the episode I dropped of Paranormal New Normal yesterday, it features a man who's he runs a entertainment company out in California, an agency basically, and his father was military, and I believe he says father was stationed at Indian Lake. Have you heard of that one, Scott?
I barely, but I would think I heard it from a movie. But yeah, no, I can't be.
I may have the name. I may have the name wrong too. It was something Lake. I just don't know if it was Indian Lake or something. I'm thinking of a movie or something. But he said that the place his father worked at though is where they would have definitely shot it. It was faked, and he was alive during that time. He doesn't remember anything ever going on around during that time. So he thinks that we really did go to the moon, and exactly what we're saying though, that something did happen, and like I don't know. He says father got into some weird stuff with when he was working for the government. So, but you have to listen to the episode to hear full details on that. But
I don't know, man. I think they would have shot that in sand dunes. So my first piece of evidence I'm going to bring up is with the camera technology. We're going to share this screen. So we got the Hasselblad camera. There we go, Moon Camera 1. So this is Moon Camera 1. And this dude has a very good documentary. He's a professional photographer from the time period. There's the Hasselblad. Let me get to shot 2. So there were numerous cameras brought back. There was only one that got brought back. So these were handheld cameras. They used the same cameras that professional photographers would use to shoot weddings. So in 1969, the Apollo 11 team would each have their very own Swedish-made 70mm Hasselblad data camera. These cameras featured a 70mm film magazine that was able to take 200 shots per mag. So you would load the mag here. And there was actually, if you watch his documentary, there was actually a divider so you wouldn't ruin the film. Everyone on the show is shot with real film, right? Deborah and Jeremy?
Hmm?
You guys have shot them with
Yeah, yeah,
real,
it was like
real
with
film?
the little scrolls or
No,
whatever.
I
yeah.
mean, oh, I mean, yeah, with like a 90s video camera, but never anything older than that. And that was the
You
only thing
didn't-
I ever used.
Take photography in high school?
No, I like to get laid.
Okay,
What did you
seeing-
take instead then? I'm curious. What was the? What's
I mean,
the?
I was majoring in culinary arts in high school. I spent half a day at a tech school learning culinary arts,
Oh,
but I mean, I was also in yearbook, so I took pictures with a regular old Nikon or whatever the hell you call it, just like a regular camera. But it's
okay,
just what
but
it
you
is.
know the film was delicate, right? Like you
Oh God,
took
oh God,
pictures
yeah.
and shit would
I've
just
seen-
not develop for God
I-
knows you left it in the car.
in that dark
seen
room or whatever, trying to develop it. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen cartoons. I know how it works.
So the astronauts were supposedly in these big, thick suits, and then I mean we could get into the fact that there's no atmosphere there, so their hands would have been vapor locked if they were on there. But when they were on the moon, they made these special cameras where the shutter dial and the aperture dial were actually screwed together, and then they had just a turn knob that would adjust the aperture and the shutter at the same time. Now, I don't know like how versed you guys are in a film camera, but if you tried to do that in just a straight film camera where you have the aperture and the shutter dial and you're taking these good of quality of pictures, bullshit. Second off, the camera, this is just a regular Hasselblad camera at the time. It used to have a leather outside to make it look pretty, but they ripped that off. They painted them silver so they would reflect the sun's heat. There is no weather sealant on any of the lens, the film catch. I should not have drinking during this episode, but there was
My
only
wife's making me go sober, so yeah, you shouldn't have.
one of these was brought back by James Irwin in Apollo 15. So that's this camera right here, unweatherized fucking camera brought back. But how hot was it on the moon? According to NASA, daytime temperatures near the equator, which is right where they landed in the Sea of Tranquility. So on all 5 lunar missions, they landed sort of right there on the equator. During the day, it reaches 250 degrees Fahrenheit, while the nighttime temperature reaches 208 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's a 458 degree lunar day versus night difference. So the moon days and nights are different. It takes about 14 days to transfer between day and night on the moon. But the astronauts in Apollo 11 were there for 12 days. So they apparently landed right where they landed. It was when the sun was just coming up. So if you think morning temperatures, they're still in the negatives. And then they stayed past the 250 degree Fahrenheit days for over the whole time. It was at 250 degrees. And then right when they left, it started to drop back down to the negatives. But they were there for at least 4 or 5 days in 250 degree weather. So camera film has a recommended use of 32 degrees to 104 degrees Fahrenheit. They were 250 degrees for days. I already said that part. Okay, so NASA, this is another big thing that gets me, right? You know how hot it was when they came back? Let's stop this share for a second. I gotta get this closed. How hot do you think it was when they were traveling back through the atmosphere?
I mean, it was like easy
Okay.
800 to 1,000 degrees, wasn't it?
Grabbing this thing. Okay, here we go. S temp. Share screen. S temp. So it was 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit in their little tin can they were flying back from. So even if that film lasted through the 250 days consecutively, they came back in 5,000 degree temperatures. And I actually grew up, the lake I used to fish at when I was a kid. Let me show you this one. Oh, I stopped sharing. I'm going to share again. So this is Apollo Park, where I used to fish at. And when I was a kid, this thing was not caged off. Kids would run and jump all over this motherfucker. That is what they came back in. 3 men in a tin can. This is a bench. I could not find one with a human next to it. But imagine that. Imagine that. A person stands about this tall right here. 3 men came back in a thing wrapped with tinfoil in that fucking thing at 5,000 degrees heat. Now we're going to get to.
I mean, that'd be roasted chicken.
Okay. How fast do you think they came back?
Wasn't it like freaking like 500, 600, 700 miles an hour?
Oh, no, 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 no. So the Apollo 11 flight crew returned from the historic moon expedition on July 24th, 1969. Their command module pierced the Earth's atmosphere, traveling at 36,237 feet per second. And then it became 5,000 degrees. So if we take that number, 36,237 feet, and we multiply it by 60, that turns into 2,174,220 feet a minute. Times it by another 60, that's 130,453,200 feet an hour. We divide that by the 5,288 feet in a mile. That puts them at 24,707 miles per hour. That is 32 times the speed of sound. And then they stopped it with 2 parachutes, or 3 parachutes. I'm sorry, the Apollo 3 was stopped with 3 parachutes. So where is my G-force one? This is the calculator. So that was the miles per hour. You guys can do this math if you want to.
I'm good on that.
But let's check out.
You're such a nerd.
Oh, fucking liars. This pisses me off. Moon temperature by the equator. Where the hell is?
See, he's like me. Like right now, he's just like I am when I'm arguing with my wife and I want to prove I'm right about something. Like I do this not Googling.
You'll put
But-
this effort in.
So
Yes.
every time you go through the speed of sound, that's a G. The speed of sound is 1 G. What does it say there, Jeremy?
Humans can stand no more than 9 Gs. I mean, I hung out with like 12 Gs in high school, so I don't know what they're talking about. But
Okay, so our fucking old Buzzo and the other farmers were doing 32 Gs, but no humans can withstand more than 9 Gs.
they're superhumans, man. Come on.
Okay, yeah, they got that farmer fucking blood. Okay, last thing
That's
I'm
all-
bringing in.
That's super soldier serum, you know.
Okay, so this is the 1969 moon laser. So this is, does anybody remember trying to set up a satellite in the early 2000s? Just a satellite dish?
I remember a bunch of them that failed in the early 2000s, but yeah.
So old farmer Buzz set this up. This is a laser reflector, so they can monitor the distance of the moon. Looks pretty advanced, right? He set that up so they could shoot a laser at this little 2x2 square here and bring it back to the Earth and measure the distance and get more accurate measurement. Well, let's see what we got in 1963, 6 years before the moon landing. Now, this article, I was going to make Deborah, read that. That's a lot. But this proves the fact that they were shooting lasers at the moon in 1963 and reflecting them off of the moon without reflectors and measuring the distance of the moon in 1963. So no, I do not believe we ever made it to the fucking moon. And I would love to argue anyone. I will waste my goddamn life proving that we did not make it to the fucking moon.
And you didn't even bring up the flag. You had
No, the flag, they try to say that, whoa, they shook it and bullshit.
But
There's like
I-
6 different videos of the flag doing different fucking things.
I had someone ask me comment on one of my posts yesterday about my episode and say, well, whatever happened to the flag that was supposed to be on there? If you look through a telescope, you can't find any flag.
Well, that's because we can't focus in deep enough, Jeremy. Come on. I brought some arguments that I didn't think.
I mean, let me put it this way, Scott, and this is gonna be corny as hell, but we haven't been to the moon, but have we been to Uranus?
Oh, they're getting to my anus. Yeah, it's deep in
Oh
my
my
anus.
God.
That's where they are. Motherfuckers.
I said it was gonna be corny, but I had to do it.
why do I feel like I'm back in a science class in high school?
You know, it would have been nice if your science teacher told you about some of this stuff, right?
We
It would have been more interesting to have conversations this way.
actually we
Have a
never learned
vote.
about. I can't remember any time in college. I mean, not college, in high school, in any science class, that we learned about space at all. Really, I mean, they did. I think in my because we did earth science, we did biology, and then that was all the science I'd taken in high school because I went to do technical stuff. But
I was
Earth
in all
science,
the
biology.
dumb classes.
I
Biology
find it
twice.
interesting that in Russia they don't even acknowledge this. That's interesting to me.
well, why would
'Cause
they?
we
We
never
beat them.
went. No, we beat them. We beat them my ass.
Yeah, we beat their. I mean, technically Sputnik made it first, but they didn't get to the moon.
No. Sputnik is, I mean, we could do a whole nother episode on Sputnik, right? At the time, cameras were like this fucking big, and this dude's in a little capsule like this, and we got perfect video. And there's shadows, like the windows you look, and what kind of glass did they have for the fucking windows? I could go on and on and on about this bullshit moon landing. We can pick up or show the pictures of Saturn. Have you guys seen the pictures of Saturn that we took? It looks like a goddamn kid's drawing.
You know it's not,
Oh.
man. Maybe whoever made the universe was a kid.
That's true.
Probably was. So I don't
But-
know. That's, I mean, I could go deeper. I shouldn't have drank. There's a lot
Okay,
more.
well, Jeremy, you've heard 2 different theories now. So whose side are you on here? We went
What,
there,
the-
the aliens
what-
kicked us off,
what?
or we've never been there at all.
See,
You'd be the
this is where my
tiebreaker.
this is where I have both theories though. I agree with both theories. I do not know which one to go with because I haven't seen enough proof either freaking way. But I mean, I would lean more towards the aliens one because they had to be involved. Like we went to the moon, and Roswell was shortly after, and then I think that's when like the whole alien thing on Earth really kicked off. Like they've
Mach
been coming here since-
32. Mach 32. Come on.
Yeah, I mean they've been here since the beginning of time, but like they might create Earth for all we know. They may have made the humans as like a slave race that escaped. Who knows?
I'm not disproving aliens. I'm just saying that we didn't send
You
pig
couldn't.
farmers to the moon. That's all I'm
Well-
trying to say here.
I mean, I don't know. They had to either they put on the greatest show ever or it really happened. That's the best thing. That's the way I could put it.
But my question then is still, why did they want to make everyone think this? Like just to test how gullible
What
the
what
world
he
would
said?
be, or
It was a time when American pride was as highest, and oh, we have to beat Russia because it's after World War II and Russia's bad and Cold War this and Stalin this and Putin that. Like we gotta do this. So let's
And
go.
$28.2 billion a year of that.
Exactly, money. It's always about the money too with
It's
the government.
always about the
So it's
money.
really just propaganda. That's it. It's marketing.
I mean, propaganda has been in America
Yeah.
since the founding fathers, so
Oh God, no wonder other planets and races don't want us. Like humans are.
why would they? We're a bunch of backward dirt monkeys that don't know their way out of the dirt.
And
Fun. Well, I like my theory because it's the most fun.
I mean, I truly believe the moon had to be used as a base by at least one alien species at some point in history. It had to have been, because they would need a place to, like, they have to be like, all right, where are we going today on Earth? Oh yeah, Egypt. Let's put on this attire here, and then we'll come back and change before we go over to Peru and go to see the Aztecs.
It's the changing room.
Yeah,
I believe there's
funny.
aliens on the moon a lot more than I believe we went there. Like if we're sending satellites, unmanned satellites and taking pictures, I would 100% buy into that more than the whole farmers going to the moon scenario and living
mean-
until they were 90. Fuck
why?
off.
But they're all
Why
screwed
did-
up. That's one thing too. And they're all scared and screwed up. So what if
Why didn't they send scientists? That's my question. Why didn't they send scientists?
Because these were brave young Americans named Buzz. Buzz was a
Buzz-
popular name back then.
Oh, you mean my good friend Buzz Lightyear?
Yeah, there we go. Maybe it was all set up by Pixar. It was a marketing ploy. They knew they were going to do that movie
50 years before Pixar became a thing, but yeah.
30 years before Pixar became a thing.
So Scott, what did people like when you were going around, asking people whatever? What was the general consensus?
I didn't get a lot of. I edited 3 videos. We can watch one if you want. And like I said, the people who would buy into whatever the hell the government told you, like with this FTX, we'll see how that runs out. But the people who buy into whatever the fuck the government tells you, they were the ones that said absolutely we went to the moon. And then I ran into the one alien guy. I can show you that video. He thinks that we built, or that we didn't go back because we saw all the civilization on the moon. And then I ran into a couple people that didn't believe we'd ever been there. But most people did think that we went there and there was no funny business, and that Artemis 1 is just gonna complete its mission and we're sending people there in 2025.
Well, I guess we'll find out. We'll all see.
Yeah. Depending what the radiation sensors bring back.
So if it was possible, would you jump on a flight?
I wouldn't.
I mean, I kind of want to be one of the first people to go to Mars, but I want to
But
find that giant.
you'd jump on, you'd volunteer, and yeah.
I want to go. I want to go try to catch that Martian warthog that was in the pictures a couple months ago.
I didn't see that. I saw the they were like bacteria from, I guess that would have been in the early 2000s when we sent the Mars rover. I don't know if you guys saw that. They found the fossilized bacteria.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw that, but I mean, I also saw a picture a couple months back where it was like a picture of something on Mars and it looked like a pig or warthog.
Huh.
For real? That'd be fun.
So if there are
I mean,
cryptids on the world right now, what kind of cryptids do you think are on the moon?
None, because they all moved to the Earth.
Okay. Fair.
I think it's what it was a long time ago. I think it's when cryptids started appearing more and more, like after we went up there, after Roswell, after all that. Like, I think that's what it was. They're dropping off more and more species that want to come to Earth because Earthlings went to the moon. So let's open the gates.
Like we caught their attention, so they wanted to.
Basically, I mean, yeah, it's actually what they did in Marvel Comics. They did this whole storyline where that like a group of different species of aliens, like their leaders got together and said, like, we are going to make a deal with Earth that they're not allowed to go into space. and that made Shield actually create a division called SWORD that stops anybody from coming in Earth from space or monitors it, and it made anybody that's leaving Earth get caught. So only like superheroes are allowed to leave Earth to go to space because they get to fight battles.
So you think they came with like basically a Noah's Ark of cryptids and dropped them off? Now we
Yeah, I
have
mean,
all that.
I mean, I don't know. Bigfoot may have been around forever, but I mean, the whole Pennywise idea of an alien coming from space and eating the dinosaurs, I'm down for that.
Why not killer clowns from outer
Eh.
space?
He only became a clown later in life so he could, because it's something that kids would go to.
I was
He
talking about the
evolved.
movie.
Oh, Kill Clowns from Outer Space. I love that movie, but that movie's hilarious. And freaking the dean from Animal House is the sheriff. That's the awesome part. But killer clowns. Huh.
Well, I got that shit off my chest.
Well,
I
I guess
don't-
it's just to be seen. I don't know. I don't think we solved anything here.
I don't either.
Well, we're not trying to sell anything. We're not the government.
We should be.
Well, do you really want to be though? I mean, do you see how bad it ages every president? Like when they go in and when they come out? Like,
Trump didn't age. He looked oranger than ever. And look at Trudeau.
oh, I mean,
Trudeau's still a
let's
handsome
not.
devil.
Let's not look at him.
I'm not talking about Canada. I mean, look at how bad Obama looked after he came out of office. Like, he went from being Samuel Jackson, like 70s, to freaking Samuel Jackson now.
Do you think they would actually tell the president, like, let's say, just hypothetically, we never went
president
to
doesn't
the
know it.
moon.
The president doesn't know anything about that type of stuff. Like, that book of secrets is not that big.
Yeah, I don't think they tell them a lot, period. Because Trump probably would have, like, just full on came out. Or at
Because they
least
can't
held
risk
it.
them. They can't risk them answering wrong, like knowing too much and then giving the wrong answers, right?
Oh, trust me, if Trump won, it'd be like, I mean, if Trump heard that, it easily would have been like a freaking thing against Biden, like
A
in the next
bragging
election.
point and whatever, yes.
Yeah, like you gonna trust his side again? They didn't even tell you that the moon landing's fake. Oh, by the way, it is.
Yeah, no, I don't. But I mean, there is a lot of stuff. I wish I had that whole conspiracy list, man. I mean, I had all the people that were involved in Watergate, the Gulf of Tonkin. Shit, I had like 4 other conspiracies that were actually found out. Oh, the Patriot Act. I mean, there are a lot of people that were involved in this crap, and they were found out by a third party. But how long would the stuff have stayed secret? MK Ultra, that was another one. Like,
Well, then
before,
they do like to make people like, so, the one out of the 3 that was talking about the aliens, nobody even knows him. He's just some crazy person, right?
Mhm.
They like to, that's how they do it. They make it seem so ridiculous that everybody just kind of rolls their eyes at the one person telling the truth.
Yeah.
So,
No, they did that with the guy from Roswell, New Mexico. What was his name? Jeremy, you should know.
You think I remember the names, dude? Come on, but I know the story. I don't know the names. I mean, actually, I might be getting the grandson of the first guy one of the guys that went and saw the crash on my show pretty soon. One of my fellow podcasters just hooked me up with a reference for him, but
Yeah,
I
no,
don't
it's
know. I mean-
interesting stuff. I mean, I could see it being a big, that's
They-
exactly how they do it, is just make it seem like it's just so flippin' ridiculous that,
exactly. Yeah, and
everybody
they
just
like.
dismisses it.
I mean, like
But-
recently, right? That the COVID came from Wuhan. Like, that was seen as not only like a crazy conspiracy, but a racist conspiracy.
Yeah.
I mean, it is as much as Randy Marsh sleeping with a Pequin is. So, if you
Well,
haven't
look
seen
at
the
that,
South
look at
Park
the whole pedophile
Netflix
thing,
special.
Yeah.
that
Uh,
Corey Feldman, Barbara Walters was basically ridiculing him, and turns out who was right all along, or who was telling the truth.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, we
100%.
yeah, we went into some of that on the conspiracy bracket a little bit, but
But
you should
then
have
they
seen when
even
should
go
have seen
for
when
it.
Epstein came up. Yeah, I said you should have seen when Epstein came up.
Well, that's what I was gonna say, is like that whole Epstein, like they had the documentary, but they didn't even release a lot in the documentary.
'Cause
You
they
know,
can't.
they didn't talk about how Clinton was there 26 times and Trump
Oh
flew
no,
on the
that
private
whole
jet 7
that
times.
list of
And
names is still not even released. But and the thing is, they ridicule, and well, look at Mel Gibson. Like, they make people seem like they're nuts or
yeah,
racist or anything, and they dismiss them, cancel culture, right? Like, but at the end of the
Yeah,
day, half the time it comes back, and those people who were trying to speak out in the beginning,
it's
they were telling the
gaslighting.
truth. Yeah,
It's
100%.
gaslighting. That's all it is. But
well, they take
well,
a clip, like they take a clip from a conversation like this, and
Yep.
like how crazy could they make Jeremy seem right now? Come on.
oh, they wouldn't have to work hard. But I believe next week is Deborah's topic, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
What?
it is.
Oh my God, you guys, I didn't even think of anything.
Do
Oh
do
dear.
do do do
Oh,
do 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 do
don't.
Well,
Now I'm
well,
blanking out.
actually, I mean, there's no such thing as a Thanksgiving episode, is there, Scott?
Well, she already had her Thanksgiving. I looked
No,
up Turkey Man.
our
I
thing.
did. I was gonna do Turkey Man
Was there a
instead of the
Turkey Man?
moon. There's one Turkey Man, and he's a drug-fueled maniac that lives in Florida. So I figured we didn't want to do a profile of a person. Thought there might have
No,
been
that
a
probably wouldn't be a good idea.
cryptid.
No, there's no. I mean, the closest thing you got to that is Thunderbirds, but
We got Mothman next, but how many more mans are there? Like, we've done Dog Man, Goat Man. We did Frog Man. There's got to be
mean,
some more mans.
well, I mean, you just keep looking for those men, Scott. But I mean, it's got to be. We could easily do. I mean, we did Frogman, Lizardman. I don't know. We're running out of them. I mean,
Is there a woman? Or is this just like super sexist with these cryptid?
I mean, if they exist, there's females every variant, but just they don't talk about them because, the plural for men and women is men.
What about a they them man?
And
Come
they
on,
them
there's
men.
got to be a they them
God.
man.
Yeah,
Oh
that
no.
that's Caitlyn Jenner, but
So what are we doing, Deborah?
Have we talked about like the giants of giant races,
Okay.
no, we never did do giants yet, and it's a topic I always love to hit on. So,
Yeah. How about that? Because I find that pretty interesting that,
oh, I
And
gotta see if I can.
I'm
I'm
in
gonna reach out to
religious country, so
I'm gonna reach out to a possible guest, and I doubt I'm gonna be able to get her, but I'm gonna try.
okay, yeah, cool. Yeah, because I think that's pretty interesting to me. Like these different, complete races of people that they're finding skeletal remains that are just, well, we'll see.
it's in all the religious text. Nobody
It
can
is,
dismiss
yeah,
my
that's the thing.
questions.
Like, yeah.
Well,
So I'm not a descendant, obviously. I'm only 5 feet tall. So anyways, yeah, that's it. Let's do that.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, that'll wrap us up this week then.
have a good week, everybody, especially you on BitChute.
Let us know what you guys think. Yay or nay? Did we make it to the moon or not? Have we changed any minds? Have we touched any lives?
And I swear to God, I'll block you if you say we did.
No, he
I'm
won't.
just
You won't let him.
Okay,
I mean,
goodbye, everybody. Oh, Jeremy's gone.
According to Scott, I'm higher than the people they got to the moon. So
Yeah, Jeremy was
Scott.
hitting that thing a couple times.
it's just some berry stomper. It's all good.
Hey, I don't think a group of 3 farmers got any higher than you are right now, my friend.
And I'm not even that high, but that's just the sad part. But okay, No, maybe, but
Live stream ended. Have a happy American Thanksgiving to all of our American listeners. And I hope our Canadian listeners had a good, whatever you guys do. Live stream done.
Bye.
Okay, let me stop recording here.